let's talk about this meeting briefly, about the meeting between Donald Trump and Ramaphosa of South Africa last week. Well, not last week, earlier this week, I think around on Monday or thereabout. No, okay, yeah, last week. This is a new week anyway. All right. Barrister, what is your thought? Can you be brief about it? Now, I have thoughts all over the place about it. I don't know how brief we can be, but honestly, I have my thoughts scattered around. So, what is your thought generally? After the meeting, how do you view the image of the president, Ramaphosa, and South Africa? And consider everything said there and everything that is going on in South Africa.
Yes, I would say that President Cyril Ramaphosa conducted himself very well. I think he came with the backdrop of President Zelensky of Ukraine and what happened in the White House. Trump has decided to conduct diplomacy in the open before the cameras, contrary to what other presidents have been doing. We are not used to seeing meetings between president of US and other presidents with journalists live exchanging words and questions in this manner. It is the first time the president of the United States has decided to conduct diplomacy in this way. Ramaphosa came knowing that what happened to Zelensky can happen to him. I personally believe he conducted himself very well. The issue is a difficult one, and it needs time because the core issue of land in South Africa, we cannot divulge it from the history behind it. The historical injustices that have happened over 300 years in South Africa. A situation where you have, formerly, the whites were about 12% of South Africa. Now, I think they are almost down to 8%, 9%. This own over 80 to 90% of the arable and farming land in South Africa. This is an issue that should not be swept away. South Africa has been circumspect under Mandela, who saw what happened in Zimbabwe. The recklessness with which Zimbabwe treated the whites. Zimbabwe used to be a net exporter of food in Africa. When Robert Mugabe took power, he rushed into this issue of land distribution, seizing land from white farmers. And in the normal corrupt African way, those lands were seized and given to politicians who could not farm the land. At the end of the day, Zimbabwe, that used to be a net exporter of food, became a net importer of food and one of the poorest countries in Africa. South Africa has seen that going along that way, we ruin the economy of South Africa and even in its international image. During Mandela, this issue was handled with a lot of caution. Now they have passed a law, even though that law has not been implemented yet. No land has been seized under that law yet. That law was passed in January of this year.
Yes.
To allow government to seize land from whites under certain circumstances without compensation. That is the part that I am against. No matter the historical injustices, for the economy of South Africa today, for a rapprochement between the whites and the blacks, we cannot say, okay, white did this, so let us counterdo. There must be a rapprochement to have South Africa go forward. Land should not be seized under any condition without payment of compensation. That is my own. But distribution of land per se as a policy should not be swept under the carpet.
Yeah.
You have somebody having land of which 80% of the land has not been cultivated for the past 10 to 15 years. They are just using 10 to 15% of the land in South Africa. And the millions, 30-something million blacks are living in this thing, camps, more or less camps, without land. And the crushing economic situation is pulling them into crime. South Africa is a crime scene now.
Yeah.
The rate of criminality is expatiating. is going out of control. So these issues cannot and should not be swept under the carpet. They should be dealt with. How to deal with them is where we can take issue. They should learn from the mistake of Zimbabwe. If you want to take land, give compensation, appropriate compensation. But to say you will confiscate without compensation, that is where I will always have an issue.
All right, thank you so much. Now, my take is this. The truth is, first, let me start from the White House. Ramaphosa, he conducted himself well, but honestly, he was humiliated because he did not prepare. How come you did not prepare? First, I love Donald Trump's style. This issue of bringing out something that is supposed to be done behind closed doors. Donald Trump is just actually adjudicating actually carrying out negotiation in front of in the public. I love those. I love that style. Honestly, I love that man for this. Secondly, how come this man? Everybody knows Donald Trump, especially presidents, heads of states. They have visited White House several times before Ramaphosa visited. He should have prepared for this. And besides, Donald Trump has been very critical of what is going on, including the policy, the policy they signed into law in January to confiscate lands without compensation. Donald Trump has been very, very open, publicly critical about this. So I expected Ramaphosa to prepare, to have been prepared better than what he did. Now, because I don't know why people call that ambush. That wasn't ambush. You were coming to visit somebody, and to actually disprove what the person's the notion the person had concerning the situation in your country. You should have every proof on ground to dissuade that such person, and you should be prepared with more weapons to actually counter whatever the president Donald Trump had. But no, you didn't do that. What do you expect? Everything Donald Trump showed to him, the videos, the news articles, all of them they are in the public. Before the visit, they were all in the public domain. So whatever Donald Trump evidence he saw, he didn't see those evidence didn't come out of the blues. So Ramaphosa I expected him to have seen all this stuff, all these materials. So, and I don't see anything wrong there. Besides, what even made him to be more humiliated was the fact that he came in with these white guys, the agricultural minister, who is a white guy, and some of his entourage, the golfers, and two other white. I've forgotten what they do, whatever. I think the white men standing, or the three white men standing, actually were kind of business. They were into business or whatever, business guys. Apart from one that is golf legend. Now, the one in the middle, that white guy, actually, these are people he actually carried along to be his witness, to actually dissuade Donald Trump from his perception of from what he had. Yet these people came to actually validate what Trump had. Especially the one in the middle, I can't remember his name. The one in the middle actually literally gave out Ramaphosa. And you could see even while he was watching those clips and everything he had, and while he was listening to the people who were supposed to be on his side, you could see Ramaphosa's body language. He became uncomfortable. You could notice that truly some of those clips he saw were strange to him. Those clips he watched, if you go back to that clip, watch his face, watch his body language. If he had seen those clips, or if he had those articles, the body language could have been different. You will notice it, but you will realize that this man, that was strange to him. How could such be strange to you? When this was in the public domain before you before you watched it, everybody had access to it. So how come you, the president, something was going on there or whatever, you didn't know whatever, you didn't know what was going on? That was one. Now, apart from that, let me go to South Africa. Now, South Africa, You know they are not. South Africa has never been in the good books of the US. I don't even know. Honestly, I don't even know. Before Donald Trump stopped this aid, this financial aid to South Africa, I asked myself, what the hell was, I don't know, why have they been giving South Africa aid? They have never been on the side of the US. That's just the reality. South Africa has been in romance with US enemies, with Russia, with China, with Iran, with Hamas. South Africa has been an ardent critic of Israel. They have been on the side of the terrorists, supporting the terrorists and some terrorist regime. For God's sake, I don't even know why South Africa has been on the bad. I don't even know why US is funding or probably giving South Africa financial aid. Now, secondly, back to the issue of land and what is going on, the racism there. Now, I remember, of course, you barrister. I remember those days when we were in school. We all campaigned against apartheid regime in Africa. I experienced it. We went on the streets in Nigeria, to campaign against. Our musicians in Nigeria then, musicians composed songs, released songs in protest against the apartheid regime and in support of the South Africans. Everybody participated in the fight against apartheid. And eventually, we succeeded by ousting the apartheid regime. What are we supposed to healing? I hate vindictiveness. Let me be frank with you. I'm such a person who believes in I believe in forgiving people, especially when someone asks for forgiveness. I don't believe in vindictive. I hate vindictiveness. So we know what it was. It was a terrible and horrible situation then during the apartheid. What they did to the blacks, there's no doubt about that. But at the same time, that shouldn't be a yardstick or an excuse for blacks in South Africa to be lazy. To be lazy, just like what we have the blacks, what we have in the US. The blacks in the US, they keep blaming the slave masters. They have become so lazy, so docile to really work hard and earn a good living because they keep making excuses. For God's sake, this thing happened to their some of them to their great-great-grandfathers that have long gone. The children are still complaining, still blaming their failures on the slave masters. And the same thing is happening in South Africa. Why will you still continue to blame the white people, the so-called apartheid regime? If not all of them, they are all dead. They're okay, if not all of them, majority of them are dead. They are no more. Probably their children are the one taking care of their businesses. So what is your problem? I don't believe in children paying the crime of their fathers. I don't believe in that. I hate that. I always want to hold the person, the real culprit who committed a crime, not the children. You don't transfer. No, I hate transfer of aggression. I don't like it. So it has happened. It's a healing process. The best thing is, okay, do the kind of solution you provide, this issue of land, at least make it in a way that, okay, the whites, you are massively in charge of this or whatever. Probably pay a kind of, the white businesses should pay a kind of reparation to the blacks community, either to the government or to the black community. Find a way, just like what is happening in the riverine area, the Niger Delta. We have the whatever, what do you call it? The oil companies that they're paying a kind of reparation to, and some monthly stuff or annual or whatever stuff to the local community there. But in South Africa, this should be done in a very, very formal and more pronounced way. That is just it. And find a way to actually balance the land stuff, the land dispute, instead of just going all the way, making it so obvious that you are trying to be vindictive by passing a law to actually confiscate this land without compensation. At least the minimum you can do, or is at least if you are confiscating a land, compensate the owners of this land. For God's sake, they have labored for it. And secondly, let me be frank with you, if they go it this way, the way they are going it, they will cripple South Africa economy. Because it is the whites that are controlling the economy. You want to begin to take this land from them, it will affect the economy of the country. I bet you. Because they are the ones. South Africa is the largest economy in Africa, regrettably, because Nigeria is supposed to be. Regrettably, I hate to say this, South Africa is the largest economy in Africa. The glory goes to the whites. They are the ones managing the huge businesses over there. And you just want to crumble your reason. And lastly, what on earth? South Africa is a huge nation. A country that is supposed to be so successful. Crime is supposed to be, when we're talking about crime, the country should take care of its crimes. The president is responsible for its crime. You don't go outside to US and begin to beg the president of US, Donald Trump, to come help you take care of your crime. You can only go out to a foreign nation to beg its president to help you to secure your borders with military aid or whatever you call it, but not law enforcement. Anything that has to do with law enforcement, you should be, it's your responsibility. So it was a shame, it was an embarrassment. I saw it as embarrassment for Ramaphosa in the public glare, to literally beg not only him, including some of his entourage, that lady, that woman that leads the trade union, she's the leader. I think she's the leader of the Chamber of Commerce. They were literally begging President Trump to come help them take care of crime. For God's sake, those are things that even if you want to beg, it should be done behind closed doors. So honestly, the entire trip was a disgrace to Ramaphosa. Honestly, it was a disgrace to him. And besides, why can't you? This man, you talked about Barrister. You talked about this opposition leader, the former ANC opposition leader that has formed his own party. I've forgotten his name. That guy is just he's super popular, but unfortunately, he's popular for vindictive traits and dispositions. That guy is too vindictive. He's just propagating violence against the whites. I don't believe in visiting the past. Let's move forward. For God's sake. Now you see the kind of population that man controls. You cannot be encouraging the blacks to kill the whites. Yet this were chants that reigned those days during the apartheid regime. But the man is still chanting. He's still chanting the same. He's still making the same chants today. And he has humongous followers. Millions of South Africans, they follow him. They listen to him. The man is literally a non-physically violent terrorist. That's why I consider him. Because sometimes he even goes to National Assembly to hold them a ransom by actually coercing them to listen to him while he propagates violence. He encourages violence against the whites. Look, honestly, South Africa and South Africans should get their acts together. That's just it. Honestly, that country, and besides, remember when they went after Nigerians as well. What the hell is going on with South Africans, for God's sake? I remember then they were blaming Nigerians for taking their jobs, taking their wealth, taking their jobs, because Nigerians are prospering in that country. Now they have transferred the aggression on the whites. What the hell is going on there in South Africa? You people should get your acts together. People should try to do things on your own. Don't stop blaming your failures. Stop blaming your failures on hardworking people. You can as well do what they are doing to succeed. So it is in their bloodstream to actually do what they are doing. Barrister, have your last take on this.
But the situation of South Africa is complex. It's easy to blame them, but you have to still take account of 300-400 years of virtual slavery in which blacks were.
I don't want. This is my problem. You are still blaming it on their past.
Let me make the point.
Yes.
Because these people were headed into communities that were like camps. Now the poverty level is so high that it is spawning criminality all over. People, there are extremist groups, just like even in Nigeria we have Julius Malema, who was the youth leader of ANC that was expelled, that has formed the Economic Freedom Fighters. That is his own political party. In the face of excruciating poverty like we have in Nigeria, extremist ideologies become very popular. That's why you see him with a lot of support when people have been driven to abject poverty, people who come out and show them the person who is causing their poverty or the scapegoat, they are bound to follow. That is what is happening. But South Africa is a bright light in Africa. If they put their ass together, they will continue to be that bright light. And I said, and I made an example, they should by all means avoid the mistake of Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe had a large white population that had their industrial base, had their agricultural base. That made them to be the biggest industrial economy in Africa, the biggest agricultural economy in Africa at one time. The blacks took over and they ran everything down.
Yeah.
So whatever policy they want to do in South Africa, they should learn from the mistakes of Robert Mugabe in Zimbabwe, taking a very rich country and bringing it down to the poorest. That should be avoided by all means in South Africa.
Yeah, you're right. Now, lastly, my point is this. Whatever Julius Malema, right, is doing, let me tell you one thing. Yeah, whatever he's doing, he's adding salt to the injury. That's just the truth. Now, if you continue to propagate such thing, people will remain bitter and resentful against the past. That is just the truth. That's just the reality. People will continue to make excuse for failure. Because Julius Malema is not doing them well. He is the enemy of the people by default, I'm telling you. Because what you do in such situation is to try to make people depart from the past. Move away from the past and encourage them to be hardworking, to do things, to be spontaneous, to be independent, and to take this brainwash out, to wipe this whole thing from their brain, this whole memory from their brain. Because we are talking about, most of them are, okay, some of them, probably great-grandfathers, some of them are still alive, they should be in their hundreds. But majority of these so-called people who suffered under the apartheid regime, if not all, but overwhelming majority are all dead. So we're talking about their grandfathers, their great-grandfathers. So why can't the children take a new path? Just like what is happening. When I meet a black Americans here, they think to complain. I tell them the same thing. Sometimes they can be emotional about it, they can be violent about it. But I don't care. But that's just the reality. Move away from what your fathers passed through. Move away from that memory. Understand that. We all have one bad memories or the other. I remember my younger brother who died or whatever. He died under certain circumstances that I don't want to go into, that had to do with the Islamic stuff, this terrorism stuff or whatever. I didn't hold that against. I'm not using that against the Hausa Muslims, because the Hausa Muslims, they were the ones who killed him. For God's sake, I'm not using that. I don't hold personal animosity. I don't, because of that, just hate Muslims on the street, even people who did not do that. That's not who I am. I can only hate people who committed such crime, not the innocent Muslims or Hausa Muslims who are moving there, who are living a different life. So you don't judge people by other people's actions. It is very, very bad. So again, South Africans, you should get. I don't have any regret for whatever I say about South Africans, because we fought for South Africans. I felt bad when they attacked Nigerians then. Honestly, I felt extremely bad. Because Nigeria and Nigerians were at the forefront, including me. We went on the street, we campaigned, we protested against apartheid regime. I didn't explain, Nigeria as a country played a very prominent role in the fight against apartheid regime. Do you know what it means? Our entire music industry was all about then. Our entire music industry was about South African fight against South African apartheid regime. So they should get their acts together and do the needful. And just like President Donald Trump said, for God's sake, why will you allow this man to be propagating violence? This man has a humongous followership. and you allow him. This is somebody that his followership can, even some stadiums can't even take his followership. Yet you allow him to keep propagating violence. Why can't you arrest him, for God's sake? Arrest him, let him face judgment. Let him face prosecution. Let this nonsense stop. But South Africans need to move forward. They are the majority, for God. They need to and they have to move forward. And they can only do that when the government do the right thing. Call some people to book. Let justice take its course. And that is my take on this. Barrister, I think this brings us to the end of the show. Thank you so very much. I appreciate this time. Thank you for giving me this time to be on this, for being on this show on this, because I know you have something very important to do at this time, but you still decided to do it. We appreciate you so much. And those of you who probably this is your first time, or you have been following us without you've not subscribed, please subscribe to this channel and follow us for more content. And for those of you who have subscribed, but excuse me, set on your notification bell for further notification so that whenever we make our postings, you'll get notified. Thank you so very much. Barrister, once again, honestly, I can't thank you enough. We appreciate this honor.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. So I wish you safe trip as you travel.
Thanks.